Welcome into the Locked On Packers Squad Show. I am your host. My name is Brandon Sneide. Packer fans wanted a major change on special teams, and well, now they've got it, but I'm here to tell you, do not expect real improvement in 2026 unless the philosophy up there in Green Bay itself begins to change.
I'm Peter Bukowski, host of Locked On Packers, and ding dong, the witch is dead.
Okay, so it's 2 times the coaches, one that's going to get fired and one that's going to get fired.
Go Pack Go! It's the Packers Squad. Everything Green Bay Packers every week, covering all the big hits and game-changing plays from Titletown. The way only the Locked On Podcast Network can. From the frozen tundra with all the cheeseheads, the Packers Squad Show starts now.
You are Locked On Packers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Follow the podcast on Twitter at Locked On Packers. Like us on Facebook. Subscribe to the podcast wherever you guys get podcasts, Apple, Google, Spotify, wherever you find them. You will certainly find Locked On Packers, the #1 Packers podcast on the internet, and the show for the fans who know what happened. They want to know why and how. As always, thanks to everyone who makes Locked On Packers their first listen each and every day. Lots to get to on tonight's Locked On Packers Squad Show. Free agency is beginning to loom up there in Green Bay around the NFL. Expectations are rising and the pressure certainly building in Green Bay. We'll begin our new series called Free Agency Focus. We're going to go position by position through the roster, decide who stays, who goes, and who could be the perfect outside addition for the Packers in 2026. Later on, we'll debate the big picture. Are the Packers truly in their Super Bowl window right now? Might surprise you. Some people on the outside saying no chance, but we begin tonight with breaking news on the Packers coaching staff, and this is one that a lot of fans were pounding their fists on the tables. According to multiple reports, Rich Bisaccia, gentlemen, stepping down as the special teams coordinator, also the assistant head coach. He has served in that role since 2022. Peter, let's get right into it. Your first thoughts on the major news out of Titletown. Rich Bisaccia, no more in Green Bay. Your first reaction to seeing that news?
My first reaction was, okay, it's February 17th. Like, the Packers have, their season has been over for a month. And while I think that you can say, look, this is addition by subtraction, and it kind of doesn't matter who they're going to get. They're probably going to get someone who's a more forward-thinking coach. We don't know that, first of all. We definitely don't have any reason to believe Matt LaFleur is any good at hiring special teams coordinators. He's 0 for 3 at this point. But I think, first blush, you go, okay, this is a positive step for the team. It's important that they get a fresh voice. Then the question becomes, where can you turn? Because we've been through the hiring cycle, 10 different teams put together staffs. So that makes this tricky. Like, what is the market out there? There's a lot of questions that this generates now as the Packers move forward here.
Packers head coach Matt LaFleur releasing a statement on Rich Bisaccia saying, quote, "While we are disappointed to lose a person and a coach as valuable as Rich, we respect his decision to step down from the Packers. Rich was a tremendous resource to me and our entire coaching staff, who had a profound impact on our players and our culture throughout the building." Coach, your thoughts on the news surrounding the Packers now on the hunt for a new special teams coordinator, a possible new assistant head coach, as Rich Bisaccia is no more in Green Bay?
I think that LaFleur made the most politically correct statement you could possibly make. The top of the PR pyramid down, he had to say it. What's he going to say? He was paying him. He was the highest paid special teams coach in the league. And let me tell you something. If that and you're not producing, I don't know any other job. Peter, Brandon, if you guys ain't producing, how fast are you gone? It ain't going to take 3 years for that to happen. And like I said, I know him personally. I was on a staff with him. I mean, I never thought he was that good in Tampa when we were there. So it doesn't surprise me, but for him to have stepped down, I think it had to be a mutual agreement between LaFleur and him. It's like, hey, you know what, Rich, we'll make it sound good in the press conference or the press release, but you got to go. That's what I think happened.
Peter, how much of this, though, is on coaching or the philosophy in Green Bay? Like, we see a lot of other teams around the NFL who employ a lot of their starting players, whether offense or defense, into special teams. We didn't see that a lot in Green Bay. And it's not necessarily hasn't been just Rich Bisaccia. You go back, as you mentioned before, LaFleur striking out, with these special teams coordinators. But how much is it actually coaching in Green Bay and special teams, or the philosophy that they're just not employing their best players on the field at any given time when that special teams unit is out there? In Cleveland, for example, you had the backup to the backup offensive line, and the kick gets blocked, where the Packers could have walked out of Cleveland with a late last-second field goal victory. And then the next week, you saw the starters back out in Dallas, although there was another issue on that as well. But how much of it is coaching versus philosophy in Green Bay?
I don't know how much of that is the special teams coach and how much is the head coach, and how much is that is an organizational thing, because they did make changes. They brought in guys like Dallin Leavitt and Keyshawn Nixon, who were meant to be core special teams players. Keyshawn Nixon, they kind of fell ass backwards into like a multi-time all-pro returner. They didn't even know he could return kicks when they signed him. But we saw last year, guys, like Xavier McKinney is covering kicks. Evan Williams covering kicks. Like, they had starters as part of their coverage teams, as most teams do, with like the offensive line, for example. That's a great one. They didn't have Elton Jenkins on those teams. And all of a sudden, after they get another kick blocked in Dallas, he's out there. Didn't have those same issues after that. They just had Brandon McManus missing kicks. But that's part of this too, Brandon, is like they totally mismanaged the kicker issue all year. We talked about this in real time. If Brandon McManus is hurt, he has to sit. And that's up to the coaching staff. And it does ultimately fall on Matt LaFleur to get those things right. But you have to also lean on your special teams coaches who have the closer relationship. Matt LaFleur joked, I don't talk to kickers. That's not really a joke, coach. Like, head coaches don't worry about kickers. They are special birds, and they're treated like special birds out in their cage during practice. And that's all. That's the only time you take them out of the cage is to make some kicks. And that's it. And so I hear you, Brandon, to a point. But I also think with these new kickoff rules, for example, did the Packers have a plan on how to handle those from a return standpoint or a kick coverage standpoint? It didn't seem like they did. We saw Carolina, what's called the dirty kickoff, and some of the different approaches. Like, you want a team that is always thinking about the next frontier, the next evolution. And Rich Bisaccia was just never, I mean, coach, you mentioned you coached with him. I talked to someone who was also on that Tampa Bay staff, and they were like, he was a rah-rah guy, not an X's and O's guy. He was not someone who was going to like scheme up a cool thing. That, the punt return. Remember the punt return that the Bears used on the Packers twice? The fake punt return catch that turned into the touchdown. The Packers with Rich Bisaccia were just never going to come up with something like that.
What a great comment. Here's the deal. Because I was talking, again, a friend of mine that I'm coaching with here now was a running back coach at Tampa Bay. And he said the same thing. He goes, what did he bring to the table? He was John Gruden's kind of court jester, right? I'm going to be real honest with you guys. That's what he was. And I remember we were having this is in camp. We might've been in our third day of camp. And Rich was coaching the running backs, and he never said a word in the staff meetings that we were running, the offensive staff meetings. Anyway, the team wasn't performing well. So Rich got Raheem Morris to say, you know what, let me take care of this. So he was going to be the warden in the sale asylum, right? So anyways, he's doing like sled drills, and they had like 5 circuits they did to make him hate football. They really did. It's like, I'm going to show him. And I tell you what I did. I took a folding chair, and I just sat like on the 50-yard line, and I was front center on this, and I go, I'm not participating in any of that, because I didn't have to at the time, because I wasn't. But I'm telling you guys, it was like, are you kidding me? Who does that? I mean, who does like a circuit like that for punishment on pro football players? And Rich was running the show. So I'm not a fan.
Rich Bisaccia also releasing a statement saying, quote, after taking some time to reflect over the last few weeks, I've made the decision to step down as the assistant head coach and special teams coordinator of the Green Bay Packers. I am incredibly grateful to Matt LaFleur, Brian Gutekunst, Ed Policy, and Mark Murphy for their unwavering trust and support throughout my time in Green Bay. Peter, how much of an effect, though, do you think this will be on the locker room and the culture? Because you go back and you look at any big-time player. I mean, every single player that has been interviewed in that locker room has great reviews on Rich Bisaccia, the culture he builds, the leader he is on the field, off the field. I do think Packer fans will be rejoicing, Peter. There's no doubt about it. This is the one change that maybe outside of Matt LaFleur that the Green Bay Packers this season wanted, after we have already talked about a few games costing the Packers due to special teams, including one late in the season. But how much of an effect do you think this will have or could have on that Packers locker room?
You know, I think that stuff can be overrated just from the standpoint of, if you get another guy in there and you're having success, no one remembers, no one cares. Like, they like Rich Bisaccia, the guy, they like Rich Bisaccia, the dude hanging out, but make a friend. You know what I mean? Like, this, it's not, you're here to win football games. You're not here to hang out. And so, like, if you have success, if he steps down, and look, he may tell the guys the real story. If there is a real story to tell here, I'm with you, Coach. I think this was a coordinated, hey, Rich, let's agree that you're gonna say you're gonna retire. You're gonna spend more time with your family. Yep. We'd really like you to not be here anymore. Yep. I think that makes sense. Whether that happened or not, I don't think, like, the guy was in his mid 60s. How close is he?
40 years in coaching.
How close is he really with 25-year-old, pro athletes? Really? I mean, come on.
I think there's like that. I don't know, because I don't want to speak for the players, but like that father figure type, leader, that guy that's been there, done that can speak on any situation that they may be going through professionally or personally. I think there's value in that. Like, I think we all have somebody in our lives that may not necessarily be family or friends, but somebody that has led us in different ways. And that's could be the guy who they look up to, and just could be that moment where we also don't know how Matt LaFleur coaches, right? Like, we don't know. We see a couple highlights from inside the locker room after games in those speeches. Like, maybe that was the rah-rah guy the Packers needed throughout the course of their seasons, through those ups and those downs. And now that void is going to need to be filled by somebody else. And maybe that person is on staff, but maybe that person's not on staff. And if that person doesn't get on staff, does that affect the 2026 Packers? The issue I have with all of this is their, and we're going to discuss it later in the show, but this is kind of their window. Like, this is it. Like, you don't want major changes when you're supposed to be, quote unquote, in your Super Bowl window. Coach, when you were in Green Bay, because this brings me back to the organizational point. How important was special teams when you were in Green Bay? Was it a must-have, unit in Green Bay, needed to be performed at the top of the level for the team to be successful, or the success to match what the expectations were? How important, when you were in Green Bay, was special teams?
It's huge, because it's one third of the whole game. It's special teams, defense and offense. Special teams are huge part of it. You guys keep talking about the first Packer Super Bowl with Favre and that. How good were their special teams?
Change the game.
Exactly. So how many times did it change the game in a negative way with Rich?
4 times this year off the top of my head.
I know that, but who's responsible? So LaFleur is responsible for the whole show. LaFleur is responsible for the offensive production. Hafley was responsible for the defensive. So it's on them, right?
But let me stop you right there. Could it be on Goody?
No, I don't. Goody. No, I don't.
Okay.
But you're
just bringing.
I know he's watching the show right now, and
he's my guy. I know, and he's watching. Thanks, BG. But I'm just saying, like, from a roster construction standpoint, like, we're seeing other things throughout, other organizations. Seattle, for an example, they just won a Super Bowl. They're going out. New England's another team that comes to mind. They have core special teamers. Part of them are starters on their roster. The Green Bay Packers simply don't have that enough consistently, I should say. I know, Peter, you brought up.
Brandon, there aren't that many Matthew Slaters in the NFL at a given time. There's like 5 of those guys that exist in the league at a given time. And the reason we know their names is because there's only 5. If every team had 3 or 4 guys that existed only to be great on special teams, we would know their names, and we don't, because they change. And most teams are using young players. And this is where, like, you need Tyrone Hopper to produce for you on special teams. And you need, backup safeties and backup tight ends. And the Packers do the thing where they draft great athletes at every position. And theoretically, great athletes should be great special teams players. That was always the Ted Thompson mantra, is if we draft really good athletes and we're going to use young players, then we should have good special teams. Now, by the way, that didn't work for Ted Thompson either. But because in 2010, they did not have a good special teams was the whole question with that team. Remember, They were mid-season. We're going, special teams are going to kill this team because they couldn't stop giving up big returns and all these issues. I'm not of the, this is like Justice Mosqueda's gospel that he's trying to preach right now, that this is an organizational thing for the Packers, that they just don't care about this stuff. Show me the evidence other teams care more than the Packers. Like the last 2 years, the starters are playing, and I don't know.
I think there's other teams, but Coach, you got a point.
Yeah,
go for it.
I do. Let's talk about the NFC Championship game. First play of the game, Seattle, San Francisco. What happened?
Yeah, return for a kickoff. Yep.
Guess what happened to
Rashid
that?
Shaheed. Yeah, that was a trade in season.
Next day. He got fired the next day.
He did.
Well, that's his unit, right? And it's just like, well, we're gonna, I don't care if he was the most liked guy, Mr. Congeniality in San Francisco. You don't produce, you're gone. That's the way the league is. And
I think you mean LA, but yeah, the Rams fired their special teams coordinator right after that.
Out in California. But that happened, the opening play, gone, and that guy's gone the next day. And that's just the way it works. You're responsible for your unit.
And they actually, last year, if you look at like DVOA and those numbers, the Rams had worse special teams last year than the Packers, if you can believe that.
And Seattle's a great example, Coach, because they trade for Rashid Shaheed in season, and he completely flips their special teams around. Let me turn it though, Peter, back over to you, because this is going to be weird coming from me because I love Brian Gutekunst, but he drafts offensive linemen that he expects or wants to play every position on that offensive lineman. The biggest thing we always hear from Goody is you got to be versatile, right? You got to be able to play 1, 2, 3 different positions when guys go down and guys get hurt. So when he's drafting and you guys, and you break down the draft, excellent with all these guys coming out of college, is he not drafting guys that can play? Okay, you can play corner, you can play nickel, you can play dime. Also, you can play gunner, you can play kick return coverage. Like, is that where the hiccup is coming organizationally?
I would say the place where that shows up is returner, because the guy that Coach loves to bring up, Allen Rossum, was about 5'9", 170 pounds, right, Coach?
Yeah.
But could run like the wind.
He was the fastest guy at the Pro Bowl.
And the Packers don't draft guys like that. They don't draft corners that are 5'9". They don't draft corners that are sub 5'11".
Yep.
And they tend to like you to be 195 plus. Well, those guys are not punt returner, kick returner types most of the time. And it's the same at receiver. They want you to be 6 feet or taller, and they want you to be 195 or bigger. Those are not generally kick returner types. Think about the best kick returners in the league. They are small, explosive guys. I don't know why the name that I always think of, but he was the punt returner of my youth, and he was the best guy in Madden in like 97, was David Palmer from the Minnesota Vikings. And I remember he would get like 16, 18 yards of punt return because he was so shifty. The Packers don't take guys like that. And when it comes to running backs, they have generally not used their running backs on kick return. Now I wonder if Marshawn Lloyd had been healthy, if they would have done that. Savion Williams was ill-suited, but Savion Williams, guys, 6'4", 225. Coach, have you ever seen a kick returner 6'4", 225?
I have
like
not.
That's not a thing. So that's where the Brian Gutekunst draft approach shows up. And they tried it, right? They tried it with Amari Rodgers. He just stunk. And they tried it with Jaden Reed, and he wasn't good at it either. And so they've gone outside of their normal preferences for some guys. I think Jaden Reed they viewed as a slot player, a little bit different type of body. But I also don't think that it matters that much. We think of who's the best, Brandon, who's the best punt returner the Packers have had in the last 15 years?
Punt returner, Micah Hyde.
Micah Hyde.
But what did he do? He played cornerback.
Well, he did, but that's what I'm saying is just because they don't have the perfect prototypical body type doesn't mean you can't find guys that are good at it.
Yeah.
My thing is, why not let Keyshawn Nixon return? Like, why not?
What is that a Keyshawn Nixon thing? Like, because he goes last year at the end of the year, he goes, I'm not a special teams guy. I'm not a kick returner or punt returner.
Yeah, but
I'm here to be cornerback one.
Coach, they're getting paid. So if Matt LaFleur says, Key, you're returning kicks, you're going to return kicks or you're not going to play.
Yeah. So, the thing is, we just had a staff meeting today on this deal down here in with Louisville, who I'm with in the UFL. And the big thing that came up is like, who are the special teams guys? Because you know who they usually are, right? They're all your tight ends. They're your fullbacks. Yeah. They're your safeties. They're your linebackers. And if you want to make a pro football team, you got to be good on special teams. You got to show up. And we just told our guys today, all the guys that we got coming in, the more you can do, the better chance you have to go back to the NFL, because every coach asks, is that guy a special teams guy? Especially the tight ends, outside linebackers, they all got to play. And even if you're playing your starters on special teams, I think that's an okay thing to do, because it's just like defense or offense. And if a guy, we would never take a guy off for special teams. He goes, I need a blow to get off. No, we'll give you a blow on defense, but you're going to play special teams. That's how important they were.
Rich Bisaccia stepping down as the Packers special teams coordinator, as well as the assistant head coach. And big news coming out of Green Bay. Lots yet to change, but as we know, coaching is just one part of the offseason. Roster decisions will ultimately define this team, and that brings us to free agency. Who stays, who goes, and who could be coming to Green Bay next? We break it down coming up on the Locked On Packers Squad Show.
Hey, it's Matt Derry from the Locked On Lions podcast. The people I love depend on me. If I'm gone, the financial responsibilities don't disappear. I didn't want my family figuring things out during the hardest moment of their lives. That's why I knew only one place to go. I chose life insurance through my friends at Ethos. Ethos makes getting life insurance fast and easy, 100% online. You can get a quote in seconds, apply in minutes, and get same-day coverage. There's no medical exam. You just answer a few simple health questions. You can get up to $3 million in coverage. Some policies are as low as $30 a month. I love the folks at Ethos. Protect your family with life insurance from Ethos now by going to ethos.com/LockedOnNFL. In as little as 10 minutes, you can get the free quote and up to $3 million in coverage at ethos.com/LockedOnNFL. That is ethos.com/LockedOnNFL. Ethos.com/LockedOnNFL. Application times and rates may vary.
Thank you for making Locked On Packers your first listen of the day. And thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcasting network. Free agency is right around the corner. Yes, I know the Super Bowl was just a week ago, but the new season upon us here shortly. A new mini-series I wanted to begin here on the Locked On Packers Squad Show. Free agency focus. We are going to go position by position up until we get to free agency, of course. Examine each position, who's a free agent, who's a pending free agent, who could potentially be somebody we want to retain, or if we want to go outside and dip our toes into free agency, the guys can share those ideas as well. We're going to begin with the quarterback position. Peter, I want to start with you. Obviously, Jordan Love is here to stay. He's the Packers franchise quarterback. We anticipate, I would assume Malik Willis is going to get a pretty penny on the outside from one of those teams. That means the Green Bay Packers will have to look to add a veteran quarterback potentially for that room. Desmond Ridder did sign a one-year deal with the Green Bay Packers. Would anticipate he's back for training camp. But do you think that the Green Bay Packers are set at that quarterback position, or is there a name out there that kind of interests you that the Packers could potentially go out and acquire?
This is maybe going to be icky.
I think I know where you're going with this because I remember seeing your tweet about it.
But the guy that I would have a lot of interest in if his team moved on from him is Justin Fields.
Yep.
And the reason is, Coach, I have been evangelized by Malik Willis. I have seen the light and
he produced.
I have come to believe that the best thing you can do with your backup quarterback position, I used to think just throw it away because I subscribe to the Jim Moore philosophy of our backup quarterback doesn't practice because if he has to play, we're screwed and we don't play screwed, right? He didn't say the word screwed. Famously, the story is rhymed with trucked, okay? And then I see Malik Willis and what he can do with his feet and the floor raiser that gives you as a backup quarterback. Because if you have a backup quarterback and he's just the Aldi brand version of your regular quarterback, and he comes in, guess what's going to happen? The offense is going to be much worse than it was, and you're going to try and run some remedial version of the same offense, and it's just going to be a much worse version of the offense you were already going to run. What I've seen Matt LaFleur do with Malik Willis has changed the way that I view that position, and when you have a coach like Matt LaFleur who's able to do that, I just think that there's so much value in that, and I think that this offense, the way that it's constructed, is very much perfect in terms of the skill set to a guy who can run zone read, play action, rollouts, boots, nakeds, all that good stuff that's a part of this offense. A guy that can run can be a floor raiser for you. And Justin Fields, like the one thing he does well as a thrower is throw deep balls. And so like that was the Malik Willis magic trick, was he was a great runner and he was a great deep ball thrower. So you can create explosives. You need to create volatility as a backup quarterback. Give your guys 3 or 4 chances a game, pick up a couple first downs with your legs a game, be a threat in the low red zone. Hey, that sounds great. And he's already probably going to be getting money from the Jets if they cut him. They're probably going to cut him because he's getting too much money from them. And so I think the Packers could get him for cheap. And I think he'd be the perfect sort of, not even reclamation project, because you don't really need to do much. Like, he's one of the most dynamic runners in the league. And we saw him in Pittsburgh be solid enough for that team to win football games.
Yeah. I tell you, Malik, the thing that I saw about him when he came to the game and all of a sudden he did pull it on zone read a couple times, man, he was around that corner so dang fast.
Yeah.
I mean, and a mobile quarterback is always good. But the other thing is, how many hits do you want the quarterback to take? But if you're smart about
He's the backup coach, who cares?
Yeah, well, he's not going to be next year somewhere. But you know, the interesting thing about the Packers, look how many backup quarterbacks left under Favre that became great. I mean, they became Pro Bowl. And you know, the thing is, like, Malik's been sitting there too behind. How long has he been there? 2 years?
Yeah.
So he's in that system for 2 years. And again, you take a look at those guys that were behind Favre. I mean, they all left and they all became like really solid players.
Hasselbeck, Brunell, Aaron
Brunell's
Brooks.
like a big one, right? I'll tell you, guy, Kurt Warner wouldn't go into a preseason game. They wanted him to go in. He goes, I'm good. And he didn't go in, and the guy became a Hall of Fame player with the Rams. It's just amazing.
Coach, do you like Peter's idea of a younger guy that can go out there and run a little bit and kind of change things differently than what Jordan Love does when he's under center if he has to come out of the game? Or do you kind of like the idea of adding on to a veteran type player, a guy that's been in 3 or 4 or 5 different offenses and has kind of seen everything and can almost kind of be like a second or third coach to Jordan Love?
Yeah, I don't think that guy's going to come in. I think if Love was in like his first year, he's already been tutored by a gold jacket, right? He's already seen what it's supposed to look like. Justin Fields, he is a good player. And again, he's not playing, and you could probably get him for a lot less, right? On the bargain bin. Peter, yes? You know.
Yeah, I would imagine so.
You know, but and the thing is, you know that the guy does have experience. And you know, those guys bring some value to your football team.
Peter, you mentioned Justin Fields. This is another name I want to throw at you and hear your thoughts on it. He's only 25 years old. He was the former number 3 overall selection. It might have been the same draft, actually. Trey Lance. Trey Lance is a name that I wrote down, maybe like, you know, a little bit of a project for Matt LaFleur, something that, you know, I kind of like Malik Will. Like, I think the parallels aren't necessarily equal with those two, but I think there's some things there that LaFleur could work with when it comes to
Trey Lance is the other name that I had on my list. We basically did a whole show on Malik Willis last week or the week before. And I think it was last week. And Lance was one of the names that came up, in part because who drafted him, guys? Kyle Shanahan.
Yeah.
And so he's been
they traded up, I believe.
They did, and
ransom.
Now it was not Kyle's pick. He wanted Mac Jones, and he might have been right about that. Mac Jones has been a much better NFL player than Trey Lance, but they developed him. He was in that system, and so he could come in right away and have an understanding of the concepts where you don't need to get him up to speed. Justin Fields, you know, was in a version of the Packers offense. Remember, Luke Getsy was his quarterback's coach. So that would be another reason Justin Fields makes sense. Luke Getsy, now the quarterback's coach for the Packers. He was the OC in Chicago. Justin Fields actually got Luke Getsy fired, I would argue, in Chicago because he was asked to make chicken salad out of chicken, you know what? And that's just the reality of your quarterback. But I like the idea of Trey Lance for all the same reasons. Now, he's not the dynamic runner that Fields is. And I think Fields has already shown he's got more ability, more higher highs than Trey Lance does. But if, let's say, the Jets decide to keep Justin Fields, or someone wants to give him $10 or $15 million to be, you know, a high level backup to come in, like, let's say the Vikings want to bring in Justin Fields to be, you know, compete with JJ McCarthy, they might want to pay him more than Green Bay can feasibly make work here. And that's why Trey Lance as a low cost option, I think, would make a lot of sense.
Let's move on to the running backs as we look at our Packers free agency focus. Who's a free agent, who's not, and who's somebody we want to bring in possibly. Josh Jacobs would anticipate there might be a rework on his contract, but he's here in Green Bay, likely for 2026. However, let's see, Emmanuel Wilson, restricted free agent, and Chris Brooks, a restricted free agent. Marshawn Lloyd still trying to figure out the injury situation. Coach, what did you think of the Packers running back room? We'll dive in to a few of those names coming up, but what did you think overall about that Packers running back room?
I thought Jacobs, and we kept saying after every ball game and go, where is he? Right. I mean, where's the part? Brandon, you brought it up a lot, about his performance. He goes, he just doesn't look like that. And the thing is, running backs take such a beating, and their ceiling falls really, really quick. So maybe he was hurt. I don't, as far as the production, when the backups came in, they were productive, but are they the guy that can carry the load? That's what you got.
And Peter, I'm still holding out hope for Marshawn Lloyd because I think he can be a game changer for the Green Bay Packers behind Josh Jacobs. But I mentioned Peter, Emmanuel Wilson, and Chris Brooks, both restricted free agents. Any thoughts on bringing any of those guys back? Do you have any hope still for Marshawn Lloyd? Obviously, the Josh Jacobs contract situation will be talked about, I'm sure, for the next few weeks in Green Bay as the Packers could save some money based off that cap number. But I don't know if letting Jacobs go would be the right move, or maybe it is the right move. Your thoughts on the running back room, Peter?
I'd be pretty surprised if they moved on from Josh Jacobs. I think the way that they feel about him, the way that they have leaned on him the last couple of years, I think more likely they push some money out into the future, and then they move on in a year. That would be my guess. I don't know if you can count on Marshawn Lloyd at all. I think anything you get from him, I still think he's a very talented football player. But Coach, I always say talented is what you name a player who is not good yet, right? Like if they're good, you don't say talented.
The potential word,
right? That's a big one. You don't have talent, you don't have potential. Once you're a good player, you're just good. We don't say, "Hell, think about the potential of Saquon Barkley." No, he's just really good. We just know he's really good. We're not waiting on that potential to hit. So I think with these restricted guys, I would be very surprised if Emmanuel Wilson is back in Green Bay, assuming Josh Jacobs also stays. Now, I could see a scenario where they decide, hey, Emmanuel Wilson on a tender with Chris Brooks and Marshawn Lloyd, and then day 3 draft pick X is actually the most economical way to put together this football team. I don't think that would be crazy, but I think they consider right now Josh Jacobs to be a core piece of this team. And I think he's a year away from hitting that Aaron Jones zone of he might be too old for the Packers, because Brian Gutekunst looks at running backs and he looks at cornerbacks like Leonardo DiCaprio looks at women. Once you hit 27, 28, he's not interested anymore. And that's just the reality of the position. The cliff is steep for those positions. You fall off the athletic cliff at running back and corner. It's just over for you the next day. And so I don't think there's anyone out there they would sign instead. I think this is more you bring back Chris Brooks on a low money tender, and Emmanuel Wilson walks, and you draft somebody on day 3 and go from there.
Yeah. Running backs, they just take such a beating, Peter, as you're saying. They just don't last long. You look at Amon Green, he was at his prime, and all of a sudden he's not, and he's just okay, right? And it happens all the time with those running backs. They just take a beating. It's like a car wreck every time they play a game.
Let me throw a name out there for you, Peter, that I think the Packers should be interested in if they were to need to add on the outside. Kenneth Gainwell, out of last year with Pittsburgh, with Aaron Rodgers, can catch the ball out of the backfield, has a little bit of burst out of the backfield running the football, kind of fits that mold. He's right before that line of demarcation for Brian Gutekunst at 26 years old. Last year, I think it was $2.9 million. So I don't anticipate his market being, overly expensive for the Green Bay Packers. Do you think the Packers could look at somebody like Kenneth Gainwell? Are they looking for that backup running back to Josh Jacobs that can do, 3 different things, right? Be in there to be able to run the ball, catch the ball out of the backfield, and then pass protect. I think Kenneth Gainwell, he earned the trust of Aaron Rodgers pretty quickly last year in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, that would be surprising to me because just from a asset allocation standpoint, we've never really seen Brian Gutekunst pay money to backup running backs. AJ Dillon got a fake special loophole contract on his second deal. And Aaron Jones got a contract with the Packers, but that was after being a star player for Green Bay. They let Jamal Williams walk. They brought in Josh Jacobs to be the star, the workhorse on this football team. And so I think that more likely they're going to allocate those resources on day 3 of the draft, maybe even day 2. Like I've been saying on my show, I don't think we should be surprised if they show up and they've got a 3rd round running back that they just love, that they think can be their future, because they're always planning a year ahead, coach. That's just the way the Packers operate. Oh, you're going to be a free agent in a year. Oh, we think we're going to cut you in a year. We're going to take a guy high that we think can replace you. And that's just the way they've always operated. They're always thinking a year, 2 years ahead.
Yeah. The thing is, those running backs, the main thing is, especially if you're drafting a guy, can he pass protect? Because if they can't pass protect, they're just a dime a dozen.
Yeah.
They're not going to be in the game, especially as a 3rd down back. If you're not a pass protector really first, you're not really valuable to the team.
And the issue I had with Chris Brooks was that anytime he came in last year, you knew it was a pass play. Like I don't necessarily know if that's the answer either, though. Like there's got to be a healthy medium between the two of them. Like you got to have the threat of being able to get the ball and being able to pass block. And I think Kenneth Gainwell would check those blocks. I don't know if Chris Brooks checks all of those blocks. I still have hope for Marshawn Lloyd, but we'll see what the Packers do at the running back position, free agency, and the draft. Obviously, still ahead of Brian Gutekunst and the front office. Our final position for our free agency focus, the wide receivers. Coach, let me start with you. Your thoughts last year on the wide receiver room for the Green Bay Packers. The one pending unrestricted free agent for Green Bay at that position is Romeo Doubs. Obviously, Christian Watson signing that extension last year. Your thoughts, Coach, overall on the Packers wide receiver room?
I know Dobbs is a deal, and the only thing that's kind of a shame, because I think guy's a really good football player, is his muffed onside kick, where people remember him. But just look at the production that guy had. He had a lot of production this year. Now, is he worth a big contract? Can we bring another guy in? I think that's the question that they have to answer up in the front office.
Peter,
I think they made their decision on this with Romeo Doubs, and I think the draft told us everything we needed to know about that. They used a 1st-round pick on Matthew Golden and a 3rd-round pick on Savion Williams. And by the way, Dontavian Wick's contract is up in a year, and Jaden Reed's contract is up in a year. And so my guess is both of those guys are not going to be back. Maybe one of them will be back. If I had to guess right now, it would be Jaden Reed, but we might find out this year that they think Matthew Golden can do a lot of the stuff from the slot as a receiver that Jaden Reed can do, and they think that Savion Williams can do a lot of the gadget stuff that Jaden Reed can do, and maybe he becomes more expendable than we realize right now. I think they've sort of landed on Christian Watson is a future part of this team, and then Matthew Golden and Savion Williams are we'll figure it out. We'll see what they are. They still love Matthew Golden, and every time Savion Williams is in the game, they run a play for Savion Williams, which is crazy. But that seemed to be what it was.
So what you're saying is Tyreek Hill doesn't interest you, Peter, who was
I don't think Tyreek Hill would interest Brian Gutekunst. I think Matt LaFleur would like to have a guy that can take off the top of the defense the way that Tyreek Hill can. But let's also not forget, this is a guy who is just a couple months removed from a brutal leg injury. And so, I don't think that makes sense for timeline wise for the Packers. But, I've been wrong before. But we heard Brian Gutekunst say last year, he doesn't like, Coach, to bring in guys that he considers to be on the back 9 of their NFL career. Tyreek Hill, he might be playing hole 16, hole 17 at this point.
Yeah, nor would you. Why would you do that? I mean, there's so many receivers out there. Just take a look at the draft. I mean, there's so many guys out there.
Every year.
Players. Donald Driver was a 7th-round pick.
Yep.
Right. Guy, one of the best Packers ever, right? So they're out there, and it's just a matter of doing a great job evaluating the talent that's there. Dobbs probably won't be here, Peter and Brandon, because there are other guys, and you're right. They didn't draft the 1st and the 3rd to pay another guy.
But both of those guys, Peter, that you mentioned, and I love Matthew Golden, both of those guys are unproven. Like we haven't seen anything out of them.
Yeah,
but
Watson's not, Reed's not, and Wicks aren't.
But Watson, how much can you rely on Watson? I love Watson too. He's one of my favorites.
They extended him, so they obviously think they can rely on him. And
sure.
They extended him before they even saw him on a football field.
But that extension isn't a long-term extension. That's a short-term extension.
I would be surprised if he doesn't get a long-term extension in October if he's healthy. That would be surprising to me. I think that they are going to extend him. Like he'll get an actual 2 or 3 year deal And I don't know about Jaden Reed and Dontavian Wicks, but at least for this year, those guys are core members of this team. And then you sort of figure it out from there. Again, if Jaden Reed is, a dude for this team in October, November, I think you will see him get a contract. I just, I don't know if those guys are really going to be a part of this team moving forward. I mean, this window right now for this team, coach loves to say, when you have a team at the end of the year, that team will never be back again.
Nope.
In 1 year, this offense could look very different, guys, because I don't think Josh Jacobs is going to be here as we sit here a year from now. And I'm not sure Wicks it could be Wicks, Reed, and Dobbs all not a part of this offense a year from now. So you're betting a lot on Matthew Golden and Tucker Kraft staying healthy and Christian Watson staying healthy and Savion Williams staying healthy. So, that's a fine line to walk here.
Coach, we got like 30 seconds left here, but I want to get your thoughts. Do you think the Packers need an outside addition, a veteran type receiver? Now we know Goody loves that younger age, right? Drafting guys, and these guys are experienced, right? All these guys have been in the postseason now for the last 3 years with Jordan Love, but how much how much help could Green Bay get with an experienced wide receiver in that room?
You know what? I'd rather have a younger guy. And Peter just mentioned about like the back nine you're on the 17th hole of 18. I would rather have a younger guy because you already got like a bunch of younger guys. Wicks is a good player. Was he going to stay or not? I don't know. But like Golden, he's really got to step up as a first round pick, Brandon. I really believe that. And as a first rounder, the guy he flashed a little bit, but he wasn't very consistent. And I know he's hurt and all that, but you got two young guys. And I think Watson is a premier guy when he's healthy.
There you have it. Our first installment of our free agency focus. We'll do it each week leading up until free agency, which could help shape the roster. But as we know, the Green Bay Packers will also utilize the draft. But the biggest question around this team remains, are they ready to win it all right now? Are they officially in their Super Bowl window? One outlet says no. That debate is next on the Locked On Packers Squad Show. Tonight's Locked On Packers Squad Show is sponsored by Indeed. Workplace chaos, deadline stacking up, inbox overflowing, and the one position you have to fill is still sitting open. When the pressure's on and you need the right hire, this is a job for sponsored jobs. Indeed, sponsored jobs helps you reach the people who actually fit what you're looking for: skills, experience, location, so you're not just hoping the right candidate stumbles across your post. Here's a stat that says it all. In the minute I've been talking to you, companies like yours have made 27 hires on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. Spend less time searching and more time actually interviewing candidates who check all of your boxes. Less stress, less time, more results. When you need the right person to cut through the chaos, this is a job for Indeed sponsored jobs. And listeners of the Locked On Packers Squad Show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to help get your job the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. Just go to Indeed.com/podcast right now and support the show by saying you heard about Indeed on the Locked On Packers Squad Show. Once again, Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? This is a job for Indeed sponsored jobs. Well, gentlemen, it's another day and another article out of NFL.com that likes to get under my skin. Last week, we talked about where they had Jordan Love ranked 14th in the NFL. We talked about the Packers' grades, 32nd in the NFL. And this week is no different. The headline for the article says 7 biggest Super Bowl windows heading into the 2026 NFL season. Coach, do you believe right now, as it stands right now, I know we just talked about free agency. I know we talked about Rich Bisaccia stepping down as a special teams coordinator and the assistant head coach. Still a lot of spots to be filled on this Packers coaching staff and throughout their roster. But as it stands right now, Coach, do you believe that the Green Bay Packers, what you saw in 2025, 2026, do you believe they're in their Super Bowl window right now?
I do, but here's the thing, everybody remembers like the last 5 games, we lost the last 5, and I know you can't use injuries as an excuse because everybody gets injured, right? But I think with a healthy Packers team like Love is and Micah Parsons can come back. Now, I don't know how fast he's going to be able to come back. Is he going to be able to start? What's the window on him, right? And I think we need to make a couple different things really on the defensive line. But I mean, the Packers are always going to be they're always going to be eligible to be in that group of teams. I really do believe that. I mean, that's just the way it is up in Green Bay.
All right, Peter, on this article, Seattle comes in at number 1 based on the biggest Super Bowl windows. The LA Rams, who weren't sure if Matt Stafford was going to come back, is at number 2. New England Patriots at number 3. That one makes sense. The Eagles, I got questions about this one, Peter, at number 4. I don't know if the drama has settled in Philly, but we'll push that on and we'll go to number 5. The Denver Broncos, still don't know. Great year. Not sure I believe in Bo Nix going forward.
Sean Payton's not sure he believes in Bo Nix, by the way.
And he's not either. But Peter, let's get into number 6 and number 7. This is according to Bucky Brooks at NFL.com with the biggest Super Bowl windows heading into next season. Number 6, Peter, the Chicago Bears. Number 7, Peter, the Jacksonville Jaguars. Nowhere on this list will you find the Green Bay Packers. Your thoughts on the Packers not being in the top 7, Peter, but also seeing a divisional rival, the Chicago Bears, at number 6.
Okay. A lot of things that I want to unpack here. First, let's start here. A2, Bucky. Bucky Brooks is a former Green Bay Packer, a multi-time Green Bay Packer. Come on, Bucky. What are we doing here? All right, let's start there. Secondly, I just said on my show, Brandon, you're making a liar out of me. I just said I'm opting out of list content. I don't want to engage with it. I don't want to do any. I just, because it seems so often to just be designed to piss you off. And that is effectively what it has done here. But let's use it as not an opportunity to complain about the list, but let's just think about the differences between the Packers and those teams. The Packers, guys, are the youngest team in the NFL. And so I understand multiple years with the 7 seed and you start to worry about, can they push forward? But the Bears have been to the playoffs one time. And it was like one of the flukiest seasons we've seen in 10 years. The Bears only go to the playoffs when they have these fluky ass seasons. Maybe I don't even know how to explain it.
Peter, maybe it's the flukiest of all time. Like those wins.
Well, no, nothing will top the 2022 Vikings. That is like just all time fake ass nonsense. And so I like the Rams. You mentioned it, a 38-year-old quarterback who had to be in a Darth Vader suit for all of training camp just so he could remain upright. Like, what are we talking about here? That, like, some of it, just that stuff doesn't make sense to me. Now, I do understand the criticism of Green Bay going, we expected more progress by now. You look at the 2023 season and you think, shouldn't there be an upward trajectory from there? They beat the brakes off the Dallas Cowboys. They give the 49ers everything that the best team in the NFL could want in Santa Clara. And they can't pull that game out because the ball bounces right off Darnell Savage's chest and right off Keyshawn Nixon's hands. They had opportunities to put that game away and couldn't do it, but they were not anywhere near as talented as that 49ers team, not anywhere near as good player for player. And so you just don't see the same trajectory. So I understand wanting to get excited about the shiny objects. Oh, look at the Bears. And Ben Johnson, and he's taking his shirt off, and Caleb Williams is the Iceman, and he's doing the dance, and he's doing all this stuff. But don't let that is a lot of sizzle and no steak in Chicago right now. And I look at the Packers. There's a reason our friends at FanDuel have the Packers with shorter Super Bowl odds than half the teams on that list, by the way, and have them as the favorites to win the NFC North. The Philadelphia Eagles, explain that one to me. Nick Sirianni might get fired a year from now. What are we talking about? Like if the Eagles hadn't won the Super Bowl last year, Nick Sirianni would be hosting the Locked On Eagles podcast right now. Like, this is ridiculous. So I don't see that. And Jalen Hurts, I think, exposed himself this year as a pretty substandard NFL, like not a substandard, but like a quarterback with clear flaws and clear limitations. And you can't keep kicking the can down the road forever like the Philadelphia Eagles are. I think putting them that high on the list misunderstands their salary cap position. Like, they are currently operating with the sword of Damocles over their head because the money's coming. The money is coming due, and it is coming due soon. And you've got a quarterback that hates his head coach. You've got a star receiver that doesn't want to be there. You've got a star defensive tackle who's a flight risk at any time and might get kicked out of a game for spitting in a quarterback's face. Like, it's just, I don't understand that at all. I look at the Packers and I think they're the only other team in the NFC positioned as well in the NFC as the Packers are, is the team that just won the Super Bowl, because that's still a young team. They're a really, really well-coached team. And let me just say this, guys. We didn't talk about it in the first section. The first call that I would make trying to get a new special teams coordinator is the assistant in Seattle, Devin Fitzsimmons, an under the radar guy, not a big flashy name, doesn't have a long and storied career, but Mike McDonald singled him out over the course of the season as someone who was a big part of their special team success. They were the best special teams in the NFL last year. And so if you want a coach from a staff where they have produced, that would be where I would look.
Coach, this is kind of going hand in hand with the other things, the list content that we've kind of broken down over the last few weeks.
I said I wouldn't do it, and then I did 5 minutes on it, Brandon.
I know, but that's okay. We forgive you. This kind of goes hand in hand with them ranking, the NFL.com, that is, ranking Jordan Love at number 14, ranking the Packers draft class from 2025, 32nd in the NFL, dead last. Outside of injuries, Coach, what do you believe is the biggest thing holding back the Green Bay Packers?
Advancing in the playoffs, for sure. I mean, they're getting there. And again, head coaches with the Green Bay Packers aren't judged on regular season wins. They're just not. They, at some point, they need to push themselves through, and they're not doing. They're getting to the 7th seed, and they need to be a lot better. I wanted to address one thing, Peter, that you mentioned, and I think at some point, I know they're the youngest team, but you know what? At some point, you were just talking about Seattle. They're young too. At some point, we can't use that as an excuse. It's like, well, they're just the youngest team for the last 3 years. Well, who cares? No one cares. Nobody cares about that.
So is that another fault of Brian Gutekunst then? Like not going out there and addressing those, like they were the youngest team for the last 3 years and they got younger this year.
Right. Well, they have to develop their players. I mean, that's the whole thing. That's what Green Bay's always done.
So that's what I'm asking you is, do you believe their window is actually open? Like, are they in their championship window right now? Because according to Bucky Brooks at NFL.com, they're not.
Yeah. Well, I think again, if they stay healthy, and that's always the thing is like, who can stay healthiest deeper into the season? And the Packers just couldn't do it this year.
We'll definitely see. It's going to be a big offseason for the Green Bay Packers if they are going to reach that Super Bowl level. We talked a little bit about free agency, but the Packers probably not going to be big spenders. So if they are going to reach that level, it's going to have to come from within, and that means young players on the roster taking the leap. Which player needs to step up the most? We give our answers next on the Locked On Packers Squad Show. Tonight's show is brought to you by FanDuel. Have you ever wanted to experience the NBA Finals live and in person? FanDuel is giving you the chance to turn that dream into reality with their NBA sweepstakes. Here's how it works. Use your profit boost on any NBA future, and you'll be automatically entered for a shot to win an NBA Finals trip for two. That's right. Flights, tickets, the whole experience. I love futures this time of year, whether you're looking for a team to win a championship or grab a conference title. It adds that extra layer of excitement to every single game down the stretch. And now, not only can you pick your cash, but you can also spend it on the NBA Finals sweepstakes. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Use your profit boost on an NBA future and get entered for your chance to win a trip to the NBA Finals. Play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Thank you for making Locked On Packers your first listen of the day. And thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcasting network. We talked a little bit about free agency. We'll dive into it as the offseason goes on in Green Bay. Obviously, big coaching changes upon us as Rich Bisaccia steps down as the special teams coordinator. The roster could look a little bit different, but what we know is the core is likely already on this roster. Peter, looking ahead to 2026, obviously we have the free agency. We have the draft still to upcome for the Packers. Outside of Jordan Love, outside of those guys that we already know, Micah Parsons and Xavier McKinney, what is the most important player on this roster to have a breakout season for the Packers to be pushed past those limits and get past the first round of the playoffs and make a run at a Super Bowl?
Someone that they need to take a step forward, or someone
Correct.
that they need to play their best?
Someone that they need to actually take a step forward. Who needs on this Packers roster, who needs to take that step forward, becoming a core player for this Packers team to make that next step in the playoffs?
We touched on this a little bit, you and I, when we did the Sunday OT. I think for me, the answer is Jordan Morgan, because if Jordan Morgan
mic is off.
If Jordan Morgan is going to be the first round pick that they believe he can be, that sort of talented player, then you have a guy who's really productive for you, and it solidifies a position that was a major problem.
Coach, who do you think for this Packers team has to have that breakout season for the Packers to not only get out of the first round? We've seen them be in the first round the last few years. Hasn't worked out well for them moving on in 2023 in San Francisco, but ending it there. If you're looking at the roster from what you've seen in 2025 and 2026, who do you think, with a younger core of players, who needs to take that next step for Green Bay to achieve what they're trying to achieve in getting to a Super Bowl?
The guy that would come to mind is Matthew Golden. I mean, as much speed as he's got, what wins games, guys, right? It's explosive plays and turnover margin, right? And he's got to be able to step up because he's got the speed to take the top off on anything. And with him and I think Christian Watson is one of the premier wide receivers in the league when he's healthy. But Matthew Golden's got to step up as a first-round pick. He has to.
But let me push back on that just a little bit. Yeah, you say has to step up. Was he given the opportunity to step up, in your opinion, last season?
I'm not real sure like how they really wanted to use him. I could really never tell how he fit into the game plan. I know that he tried taking the top off on a few times, but he just really didn't flash very often for like a first round pick. Maybe because he was a rookie and he was just breaking in. I don't know, but I know he was hurt a little bit. But he has to produce this next season.
Again, free agency still looming for the Packers. We don't know what's going to happen with this roster. A name that I would expect to potentially not be on this roster is Rashawn Gary. And that leads me to, outside of Micah Parsons, who also will be coming off of a torn ACL injury in mid-December and might not be on the active roster until maybe weeks 3 or 4. Who's the pass rush coming from? Like, outside of names that could potentially be on this roster, what we know is what we know. Lucas Van Ness, Barron Sorrell, Kingsley Barre is a free agent, so I don't know if he'll be here. But if I know what I know and I know who's on this roster, guys, it's got to be LVN, right? Like, the Packers spent the 13th overall pick on Lucas Van Ness for a reason. That was part of that Aaron Rodgers trade to the New York Jets where they swapped picks. Like, I need LVN to step up in 2026 and be a part of what we anticipate a dynamic pass rush with Micah Parsons. And again, we'll see how the roster, works itself out. It's a fluid situation, obviously, as the season goes on, and injuries are unfortunately a part of it. But I haven't seen enough out of LVN. I thought he was off to his best start.
He was
of his career, and I had my expectations got higher.
He's not quite on the Marshawn Lloyd level, but he is getting there. Where it's just like, how can you rely on that guy to play 16 games for you?
I don't like that. That doesn't make me feel good.
Look, it's the difference between a guy who's got 2 more rushing attempts than the 3 of us sitting here in the NFL over the last 2 seasons, and a guy who's actually played some high level NFL football over the last 3 seasons. I love what I saw developmentally from Lucas Van Ness last year, but how can you rely on that guy? I think you're going to see multiple defensive linemen taken in this draft. I think that you have to see multiple defensive linemen taken in this draft. And like, I do think a defense built around just Micah Parsons as your pass rusher is fine. I really do. If you're going to get quality play out of the other guys, you just need to have quality play. We saw this. Who was the best pass rusher? Like, there were times DeMarcus Lawrence was hurt and Micah Parsons was still kicking everyone's ass as a pass rusher in Dallas. They didn't have anybody else. And if Devontae Wyatt is in there, Carl Brooks was top 10 in pass rush win rate last year. Over the last 2 seasons, Devontae Wyatt is top 10 in pressure among interior defenders in terms of pressure rate. So I think they have some guys that I like. I want to go back to something you said. I know we're running out of time here, but I'm not at all convinced Rashawn Gary is not going to be on this team. I don't think the money makes sense to move on from him unless you want to post June 1 him. I think more likely you're going to push money out into the future and cut him in a year. I think that's what makes more financial sense for this team. You'd rather have him and have him cost $18 or $20 million on your cap than not have him and have him cost, 11, 12, $13 million on your cap.
Let me put you on the spot here a little bit, Peter, as we close out the Locked On Packers squad show. We mentioned names already: LVN, Jordan Morgan, Matthew Golden. What's a player fans could be sleeping on? A younger player that we just haven't seen enough out of, and hasn't really had a moment to take it by the horns and run with it. Who's a younger player that Packer fans may be sleeping on heading into 2026 that may have a big impact on this team? And I said I was going to put you on the spot, so I apologize. I didn't even prepare you for this question, but it kind of dawned on me because there's a few names that I'm curious if you and I are on the same page with.
I think Carl Brooks is someone who I've been kind of surprised he has not broken out more the way that he looked as a rookie. But I would also say, let's not forget how good Jaden Reed has looked in a Green Bay Packers uniform over the course of his NFL career. I think when you see Christian Watson and Matthew Golden on the outside and Jaden Reed in the slot, that is a lot of game-breaking potential, a lot of combustibility. Let's just not forget how good Jaden Reed was to start, like 2024, for example, before he got hurt. And he's been hurt a lot, but like that guy, when he's out there, is really, really good.
There you have it. Our free agency focus, a new special teams coordinator, a new assistant head coach likely coming in to Green Bay as Rich Bisaccia stepped down. We broke down who was the who could be the rising star for the Packers, and obviously the offseason just getting started for the Green Bay Packers. So lots to unwind as we break down the offseason here on the Locked On Packers Squad Show. But that'll do it for tonight's show. Our friendly reminder, the Locked On Packers Squad Show and daily show with our guy Peter Bukowski, free and available wherever you guys get audio podcasts. Of course, we are also over on YouTube. And if you're watching over on YouTube, make sure you hit that subscribe button. For Coach, for Peter, and for myself, we will sign off for now. We will be right back here with you on Thursday night to talk more Packers football with each and every single one of you. Thanks for tuning in this evening, and thank you for making Locked On Packers part of your day each and every single day. And thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. And as always, make sure you stay locked on Packers.